Friends, enemies, assorted potted plants. We're going to talk about the news today because the GOP wants to ban transgenderism in schools on a federal level. I know that sounds like an exaggeration, but I swear that it's not. According to reporting from The Hill, Mike Johnston, a Republican from Louisiana, has introduced the Stop the Sexualization of Children Act. This bill aims to prohibit the use of federal funds to make, and I quote, sexually oriented materials available to children. At the moment, 32 Republicans are supporting it. There are also these 2 Twitter threads talking about this bill if you feel like you want to take Twitter seriously today. I understand if you can't. I can't take Twitter seriously today. I got permabanned for asking far-right chuds how their claims that trans people are mutilating children are any different than claims that Jewish people are mutilating children. Now, I've got some good news and I've got some bad news. The good news is that this bill is not going to go through. Not because any Democrats are fighting tooth and nail to prevent it, or because principled Republicans are going to stand in the way. No, this bill is not going to go through on a federal level because Mitch McConnell is not letting anything go through on a federal level, except for tax cuts for the rich and court appointments. There is a bill similar to this that got stalled in committee earlier this year, as reported by Politico. They needed 280 votes to get it out on the floor. They got 62. And I need to stop here for a moment so we can appreciate something. The thing that is keeping our rights intact is that our politicians are too inept and our system is too unmanageable to take our rights away from us. It is good news that this bill will not go through, but it is good news only in the loosest possible sense. The reason this bill won't go through is because nothing is going through, and everyone involved in the process knows that. The system failing in favor of the good guys is not a success. It is a mulligan. The bad news is that this bill was never intended to go through. It was never intended to become law. It's meant to rile up the base. And things like this seem to be working really well. Reuters reported back in July that the GOP was working to make the existence of trans people, I guess, a wedge issue for their voter base. Reuters is claiming that these bills have no chance of being passed while the Democrats are in power, and that Republicans are introducing them now so that they can vote on them after the midterms. I would ask that you would take this claim with a pinch of salt. When Republicans tried to get these bills on the floor for a vote, they weren't even able to get a third of the votes necessary to do so. Even if some Republicans wanted to pass these bills, failing a major shakeup on both sides of the aisle, that's not going to happen. This Reuters article does note several other things that we can consider important in a legislative context. The first thing, and most important thing in a legislative context, is that 18 states under GOP control have enacted, not proposed, enacted, bans on trans women and girls participating in publicly funded women's sports. That includes school sports. Also, more than a dozen states have proposed legislation similar to Florida's Don't Say Gay bill. Really minor thing, Reuters credits the Human Rights Campaign for these numbers, and some other numbers that come up, but they don't cite a specific article. I am going to assume that they are getting these numbers from the Human Rights Campaign's state scorecard, which you can view online if you want. The second thing that Reuters notes is that 64% of Americans polled explicitly support protecting trans people from discrimination, while only 10% of those Americans polled explicitly disapprove of those protections. This is a very loud, very angry minority that is calling for this legislation. The third thing, and the first thing that Reuters notes, is that there has been a 4-fold increase in violence against LGBTQ people. So this is not just a very loud, very angry minority, this is a disproportionately violent minority. That is important because that uptick in violence doesn't come from nowhere. And we know that far-right pundits are encouraging violence against trans people and the institutions that support them. I have seen What is a Woman. I watched one of the people Matt Walsh had on to talk tearfully plead to the camera, "They're doing this to children! They're mutilating children! Someone needs to stop them!" Even if that doesn't meet the legal qualification for a call to violence, it is morally a call to violence, and people have been acting on that. Children's hospitals have been threatened with stochastic terror. People have been standing up in school board meetings and speaking about the mass murder of LGBTQ people with glowing praise. Pride events all over the country were cancelled because of threats of stochastic terror, and news outlets like Breitbart were taking credit for shutting them down. And here's the bottom of the thing. These bills aren't supposed to pass, And they aren't just meant to rile up the base, although both of those things are true. These bills are intended to be, in a way, an incitement of violence. Trying to pass these bills and failing demonstrates two things to the people that support them. First, it demonstrates that these are good ideas, that they are right ideas, and that they are worth supporting. The federal Don't Say Gay bill and the federal bill prohibiting trans people from participating in sports are sharing floor space with the Green New Deal. Second, and much more importantly, it demonstrates to their supporters that trying to get things done through the legislature is a waste of time. And that becomes a problem when you look at the people who are supporting these bills. People like Matt Gaetz, people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, people like Lauren Bobbitt, people like Mary Miller, the pro-Trump, white supremacist, transphobe who supported the insurrection and said Hitler has some good ideas. Mary Miller is also my representative in Congress. I'm not happy about that. When you look at the people who are supporting these transphobic bills, it is not just people who believe that the system doesn't work. It is people who believe that the system only works when they have absolute control and when their enemies are subjugated and destroyed. And sure, one way of looking at all of this is to say that less than 1/5 of people in Congress are willing to sign off on something that less than 10% of people in the country support. That's still fucked. The numbers there are still wonky, but that's a positive way of viewing it. But on the other hand, I've been to these people's rallies. I've been to transphobic events where these people explain what they want and how they want to do it, and the thing that concerns me is that almost 1/5 of Congress was willing to signal to their most violent constituents that they're going to have to take matters into their own hands. That sucked, and I hated making it. You know where the likes are, you know where the comments are, leave one or both if you want. Maybe subscribe if you want more depressing schlock like this. I'm sorry that the video making process has been so slow. I was tied up in a bunch of political stuff earlier in the month, and then this week, half of my chair fucking broke and I had to go and fix it. And I was only able to do that thanks to the people who give me money on Ko-Fi. So thank you! You people. This is a base, the wheels clip on it. This thing broke literally last night, and I spent 2 hours fixing it. That's why this video is up today and wasn't up yesterday. The next small video I have planned is going to be about the FBI and how we need to remember that they are not our allies. And the next big video is going to be a response to the question, what is a woman? Not an analysis of the video, I've got that on the way, and not an answer to the question, not exactly, although it has an answer, but an analysis of what the question means. So, I don't know, maybe stick around for that? And hey, until we get to that, go out, do something important, and take care of yourselves, alright?